Hey, what's happening, guys? How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And before I jump into today's video topic, I actually did want to do a little bit of house cleaning and touch on something that I'm not really used to touching on or talking about for you guys. But I'm going to try something. Basically, I'm going to conduct a little bit of an experiment, so hopefully you guys will bear with me on this journey as I do this. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, the past couple of weeks, months, or even years, I've literally been doing this channel for almost 7 years as of October. I'm going to hit my 7-year anniversary doing Rule of Two Review here on YouTube. And throughout pretty much that entire length of time, what I don't ever really do is vocally ask you guys for likes on the video or to actively subscribe to the channel. I think maybe right when I first started way back, and I was just like a little nothing channel with probably like, 10, 15, 20 subscribers. I probably was doing that right when I first started because I thought that was the thing to do. But pretty early on, I realized I really am not into that. That's not really a part of a script that I want to have for the beginning of my videos or the ends of my videos. Everybody does it. I understand why, and I have nothing against anyone else doing it. I completely get it, but it's just never been for me. I never wanted to have that as part of my script, so to speak, for part of my videos, and also because I do this part-time anyway, so I don't necessarily need that kind of engagement and to have that conversation with you guys on a regular basis because I don't need my channel to perform certain ways to make me satisfied because the money I make from it is just extra. It's not my actual income. But right now, I currently sit at 13,920 subscribers, which I am beyond proud of as somebody who's been doing this for so long, part-time, like I said. And so I wanted to try and hit 15,000 before the end of the year because there are milestones that I still care about, even if I do this only part-time. And obviously, 20,000 has become my new big milestone. But here we are in the back half of 2020. I'd like to see if I can cross 15,000 before the year is over. So that's like 5 months for me to get another, 1,000 subscribers, basically just over 1,000. And so I'm going to ask you, if you're new to the channel or you've seen me before and never chosen to subscribe, and if you don't hate me, then maybe you should consider subscribing to the channel. And let's see if me asking for people to consider subscribing to the channel for a while, this isn't a permanent thing, will convince more people who just stumble across my videos to actually subscribe and kind of give my channel a shot. And if I'm lucky, maybe I'll cross 15K before the end of the year. Anywho, that felt weird. That was very weird to do and not what I'm used to doing, so let's go ahead and move on from that and actually talk about the video topic at hand. And let's talk about these next-gen console prices, which are not yet revealed or confirmed, but there is starting to be a lot of conversation about what we might be paying for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X when they launch later this year. And some of the numbers we're hearing, again, not at all confirmed, are maybe a little bit on the scary side, we'll say. And some of these conversations even go back probably like, I don't know, well over a year ago. Michael Pachter said something about thinking the PS5 was going to be over $800. But to be fair, I think that was even before they confirmed there was going to be a PS5 and before we knew literally anything about it. That was so long ago. That was just him trying to use his industry brain to try to predict what Sony would do. Now we're in a totally different ballgame from then because we've seen the console, we've had the reveal events, we understand some of the games, we know the controller, for both Sony and Microsoft, and it's just very different. And so now it feels a little bit more tangible. And so hearing rumors and discussions from people about what these things might cost feel potentially more real. And now, if you've been following this discussion on the internet the past, I would say 48 hours, you've probably heard some of what this is, but let's go ahead and talk about these actual numbers getting thrown around. And the big thing that we're hearing, to make it its most simple it could be, is discussions on these consoles potentially costing $600. $599 US. That is the current conversation. And over the past year, a lot of people have talked about, maybe they launch at $400 and that's the perfect price. Maybe they launch at $500, and many people have said $500 is about the max that they're comfortable paying on launch day for these new consoles. And a lot of people have said more than $500, a $600 or higher price point is going to be too high, too rich for my blood, and I'm not going to be buying it. Okay, that's me paraphrasing for other people's reactions. I'm not saying that about myself necessarily. And now all of a sudden we're hearing this conversation about the $600 potential price points. And it's, there's nothing really confirmed or official. There's not a lot of information or screenshots or anything that I've seen anyone sharing. It's more people sharing secondhand information that they've gotten. For example, Alana Pierce recently shared something about hearing that the Xbox Series X is going to be $600. Rich from Review Tech USA recently shared something that he heard the PS5 is going to be $600. So you've got some conversations like that happening from both camps, Xbox and PlayStation. And so here we sit on the precipice of learning these prices, which have to be coming to us in the next couple of weeks. And so what are we actually going to see happen? Now, here's what I will tell you about myself, okay? I am very excited for these two consoles. My current plan is to buy both of them day one unless they turn out to be so bad looking or the launch games are so pitifully ridiculous that I don't have a reason to buy one of them. But I'm not anticipating that. Even with the delay of Halo Infinite, which is a huge blow to the Xbox, yes, I still want to be able to buy both of these consoles day one. And I mean, I can if I want to, but it's about if it's the right decision and the right time and the right prices. So as hyped as I am for the two, I gotta tell you, $600 for either of these is probably not something I'm going to be willing to pay because it's just hard for me to justify that price for a video game console. And again, I'm just having this conversation, if we, for the sake of argument, consider these consoles to launch at $600, we're just going with the rumor price for the sake of conversation, not because we expect it to be that much. But truly, if these things launch at $600, I just don't anticipate myself buying one of these consoles day one. And that's unfortunate. Maybe it's something where the one thing I'll say I might do if that happens is I might actually give in and buy one of them. The more appealing one I might buy on its launch day, and then the other one I might wait a year or so, or maybe I'll wait till Halo if that's the one I decide not to buy, and then I might pay that $600, several months later or sometime next year. Tough to say. I mean, we still are waiting on these prices. We still are waiting on the launch games officially. There's so much we don't even know, so it is hard to have these conversations. It's obviously fun, and there are rumors and discussions happening that influence me to make me want to do this and talk about it, but it is still just so hard in the here and now where there's so much we still don't know, and they are theoretically months away from launching. 2020 is so continually whack and broken. I honestly almost wish that Sony and Microsoft have both just said, hey, we're going to wait till next year. Like, it wouldn't hurt me, and I would not be crying to learn the PS5 or Series X were going to be 2021 consoles. And I would guess that a pretty large percentage of you guys out there might feel the same. No one seems actively that hyped right now because we still don't really see a lot of great games and we don't understand what these things are going to cost. And again, the Halo delay was one of the biggest blows to the next-gen consoles launching this year. And I also think it's worth noting that, yes, I say $600 is more than I want to pay for one of these, and I also think that the vast majority of people will feel the same way. I don't think either of these consoles can launch at $599 or higher and really be all that successful. Like, will they sell some? Absolutely. The initial hype will be so strong that they are probably going to sell out of like their launch day stock. But I think that very quickly we'll see a pretty significant dip if there's not really great games to play and if these consoles are $600 or more. Now, there are some X factors here, and it's that each of these consoles, as far as we know, have at least two different SKUs, right? The PS5 has the disc edition and the all-digital edition. Xbox Series X has the Series X, and then the all-but-confirmed Series S, what's been called the Lockhart system. We've all seen like that photoshopped little white mini version of the Xbox Series X that's almost like GameCube size, except it's white and it's an Xbox. And so if that thing is as real as all of the leaked photos and information tells us, then we've got two potentially cheaper SKUs for each console. And maybe what we would see is the better version of the two, the disc PS5 and the Xbox Series X, might be the $599 price, and maybe the digital PS5 and the Series S version of the Xbox would end up being less money. How much less is another question. I feel like they would have to bare minimum be $100 cheaper to even make an impact. If they're only $50 less a piece, I don't really see much appeal, and I think most people would just say screw those. Like, if I'm going to spend $550, I might as well spend the extra $50 for the better version. So I would hope that they would at least be $100 cheaper or more, as far as the difference in price. And so those could potentially change the game a little bit, but at the end of the day, most people who are really serious about gaming, like all of us, we're really connected to the community and the industry and all of the business decisions and all the games. Like, we're the kind of people that are going to want the best version possible. No one's going to want to settle for the half-assed Series X or the half-assed digital version. We're going to want the real deal, man. We're going to want the better versions of these consoles. So we'll all be looking at the higher-priced version, the, potentially $600 versions of these consoles. And I think that if Sony or Microsoft or both of these guys thinks that in this market and this climate, the way people are right now and how tuned in everyone is, that a lot of people are going to pay that price for a significant amount of time, I think they're crazy. I mean, I'm not a business person. You guys know I'm just a game fan of, 40 years of life. I've been gaming. And I just know it from that perspective, and also being tuned into the YouTube community and knowing a lot of people with inside information. I feel that they're going to struggle at a $600 price. Now, obviously, Nintendo fits into this next-gen price conversation to a degree. We don't have a next-gen Nintendo console confirmed, really, or anything going in that direction. There's been enough talk over the past 2 years about a Nintendo Switch Pro, and for a while, it seemed like that was becoming more and more real, and now it seems like we're on the other side of that bell curve, and it's now seeming less and less real. At least that's my perspective on what I've seen. And so, new Nintendo hardware, it's tough to talk about it like a reality right now, but pricing always matters. So whether you're talking about Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, all three, any individual, current gen, next gen, upgrade, whatever, the pricing always matters. And so based on what we might see happen with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and what they launch at, the 2 SKUs of each one, what these prices are and how successful they are, how much money are gamers willing to pay for a console generation jump, that could also help inform Nintendo on their next pricing. Obviously a huge part of what would inform it is what the console's made of, what's the architecture, the GPU, the CPU, the capabilities, if it's got a screen in it like we expect it will, what's the quality of that screen, like those things will affect the price, right, the components, but also how the market reacts to Sony and Microsoft. They are all three competitors competing in the same industry, in the same sandbox, period. I don't care that Nintendo is different. They are competitors, end of story. And so what happens to one affects the whole industry, and it will affect the other two. And so I don't think any of us expect Nintendo's actual next-gen successor to the Switch to be something that would sell in the price range of $600. It would kind of be interesting if it did, because it would tell us that it would be doing some crazy, wacky things, potentially uber powerful, or potentially crazy, weird, insane controllers and screens and resolutions and, jumping pads or whatever weird thing Nintendo would throw into it. None of us really expect them to necessarily do anything like that, but the price will matter. And I think that Nintendo is going to be in a really interesting position, being probably, my guess is about 2 years out, 2 years behind Sony and Microsoft from releasing new consoles and going to the next gen of capabilities. And I think that they're going to be in a really unique position to kind of learn from the pricing and the power and the whole situation around these two guys releasing. It could actually put them at a really great advantage. And coming off of the insanely successful Nintendo Switch, that advantage is only going to make them that much more powerful and potentially unstoppable. I expect PS5 and Series X to do well, okay? I think they're going to do okay for the two of them. Are they going to do PS4 numbers? We don't know yet. We don't even know if the next Nintendo console could do PS4 numbers, but it's possible. But I think Nintendo, you take the Switch success, you give them that 2-year lead time from Sony and Microsoft, and I don't care about numbered generations. I know some people might jump in and be like, oh, Nintendo's already ahead of PS5 and Xbox Series X because Nintendo moved on to their 9th generation console. And it's like, well, okay, sure. Nintendo went from their 8th gen Wii U to their 9th gen Switch in terms of order of release. Sure. But did they move the industry into a new generation? They did not. Okay. Switch is my favorite console on the market. So I'm not being a Nintendo hater. You guys know I am a Nintendo guy. So I have to just be real and honest and obvious and mature about this and say my favorite company and my favorite console still wasn't the console that moved the industry into the next generation. I don't care about 8th, 9th, 10th gen anymore. I'm talking about current gen or next gen. Switch is currently a current-gen console because the industry is in this generation. PS5 and Series X will move us into the next gen. That's fine, that's great, that's exciting, can't wait to see it. And then sometime later, soon after, Nintendo will do the same. They will follow suit and they will leapfrog the current Switch and probably the current PS4 and Xbox One and get something closer to the PS5 and Series X. That will be Nintendo joining Sony and Microsoft in what is now the next gen. And at that time will be the current gen. Does that make sense? I think that probably makes sense. Anyway, I got distracted, I went on a tangent, and I totally forgot the point that I was trying to make. But at the end of the day, you guys probably know what I'm trying to say here anyway, and it's that the pricing matters. Sony and Microsoft are going to get to set the precedent. The market will react based on these prices. I think $600, the current rumored prices for these consoles, the best version of these consoles, is too much money. It's more than I want to pay, and it's more than I'm prepared to pay right now, and I definitely think it's more than most people are going to pay. So Sony and Microsoft might be hurting themselves if they're actually going to be launching in that price point. Nintendo could be in the advantageous position to learn from these prices, learn from these releases, and whenever they make the jump in a couple of years, might be able to tailor that in terms of pricing and marketing and release structure and everything to be able to be that much more successful and price appropriately, which Nintendo is already very good about doing, to be fair, anyway. And that could give them a huge advantage at the time that they end up launching whatever their next machine is. You know, Switch 2, Switch Super Duper Uber Pooper, or whatever that ends up being. You know, maybe it's not even a Switch. It probably will be, but maybe it's not. So it's going to be crazy. You know, this was a kind of an all-over-the-place conversation about the next gen and PS5, Series X, next-gen Nintendo, the prices and these rumors. I just feel like if Sony and Microsoft are smart, they're going to hit that $400 price point. If these consoles launch at $399, forget about it. Let's do some crazy math here. If the PS5 and Series X are $400 a piece, that means you could buy each one for a total of $800 as opposed to $600 for just the one, right? So that $200 difference could get you two consoles as opposed to the one $600 price that gets you one console. If you guys can picture what I'm saying here, it's crazy when you break it down that way. And I think that Sony and Microsoft have a better chance of selling one console each per person at $400 than they do at being the one console somebody buys at $600. That's just the way I see it. I think people are going to be more happy to spend $800 for two consoles than $600 for one. That's what I was really trying to say there. I know I would, and I would absolutely do it. They could launch those machines on the same day at $400, and I'm going to buy both of them that day. If they're both $600, or even one of them is $600, I definitely will not be buying them both at the same time. No way. I mean, and it's not so much that I can't afford it because, you know, if I'm being honest with you guys, I absolutely can afford it. I just don't want to. I don't see the value. I don't think it's worth it. And I don't want to support consoles coming out at these prices. So that's kind of where I fall. Anyway, man, I had a lot to say. More than I expected to be able to say. This was a really fun conversation, actually. A lot to talk about and dig into. And we don't even have the actual prices. Lord almighty. Lord help me, once we actually have the prices, that's going to be a ton of fun to really talk about too. So hopefully that happens, like I said, sometimes in the next couple weeks. So either way, these are my thoughts and opinions, you know, my perspective and guessing and theorizing based on rumors right now and what these prices could be because we're still waiting. So I, of course, want to hear your thoughts on my opinions and what I shared, and then your own thoughts and opinions about the pricing of these consoles, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, all three of them. What do you think about these $600 rumors? What prices are you willing to pay? That's a huge thing I want to hear from you guys. How much are you willing to pay for a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or even a next-gen Nintendo console a couple of years down the road? Definitely want to hear what numbers make sense to you guys. And with that said, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.